Art holds the power to capture human emotion, but sometimes a piece goes too far and becomes a prison for a fractured soul. There exists a canvas so steeped in misery that it radiates pure terror. It is known simply as the Anguished Man. Its creator remains nameless, but his tragedy endures forever. The face on the canvas is twisted in a silent scream. Hollow eyes stare out from a distorted and melting visage. The colors are muted, except for a deep crimson that stains the canvas. This is not just oil paint. Legend says the artist mixed his own bodily fluids into the pigment. Those who look upon the terrible artwork often report an immediate sense of dread. The painting seems to observe them with absolute hatred. It is a masterpiece of macabre obsession, born from profound despair. To own this object is to invite a restless spirit into your home and risk your own sanity completely. For many decades, the cursed artwork remained hidden away from the world. It collected dust in a dark attic in northern England. The matriarch of the Robinson family knew the dangers it possessed. She warned her family never to display the dreadful piece. She knew the suffering bound within the aged canvas. The grandmother claimed the artist took his own life shortly after completing his final masterpiece. By mixing his life force into the paint, he trapped his spirit forever. He bound his endless agony to the physical realm. The old woman swore she could hear weeping coming from the locked attic late at night. She told stories of a tall, dark figure moving through the shadows of her home. The entity only appeared when the painting was exposed to the light. Fearing for her family, she wrapped the canvas tightly and banished it to the highest room. There it waited patiently in the cold, unyielding darkness. When the grandmother passed away, the painting was inherited by her grandson, Sean Robinson. Sean was a practical man who did not believe in ancient superstitions or ghostly folklore. He saw the piece as an interesting family heirloom. He brought the disturbing canvas down from the dusty attic and into his modern life. Sean moved the painting into his home, much to the dismay of his wife. She immediately felt an overwhelming chill when she looked at the distorted, screaming face. The atmosphere inside their comfortable house shifted drastically. A heavy, oppressive weight settled over the family as the painting took its place in their basement. The strange occurrences began almost immediately after the canvas crossed their threshold. The family dog started behaving erratically and refused to enter the basement. The poor animal would stand at the top of the stairs and growl at the empty darkness below. It sensed an intruder that human eyes could not yet perceive. Unexplained cold spots appeared throughout the living room and hallways. Family members would walk through invisible pockets of freezing air that made them shiver uncontrollably. Doors that were securely latched would suddenly swing wide open without a single draft of wind. The house was slowly waking up to a dark, supernatural presence. Sean tried to find logical explanations for the sudden changes in his home environment. He checked the heating vents and inspected the door hinges, but his rational mind could not explain the bizarre phenomena that continued to escalate. The spirit of the unnamed artist was growing stronger with every passing day and night. Soon the strange noises started echoing through the quiet house during the midnight hours. Footsteps heavy and deliberate stomped across the wooden floors upstairs. The family would lie awake in their beds, listening to the invisible pacing. Someone or something was restlessly wandering through their private sanctuary while they tried to sleep. Then came the unmistakable sound of crying. It was not the gentle sobbing of a child, but the deep guttural weeping of a grown man in ultimate despair. The mournful wails seemed to emanate directly from the walls. The sound carried an immense sorrow that brought tears to the eyes of those who listened. Sean decided to move the painting upstairs to a spare bedroom. He thought a change of scenery might break the unsettling tension in the house. This decision proved to be a terrible mistake. Moving the artwork closer to the family living quarters only intensified the terrifying ghostly activity surrounding the screaming painted figure. The visual encounters began shortly after the relocation of the dreadful painting. Sean saw a tall, shadowy figure standing at the end of the hallway. The entity was darker than the surrounding night. It possessed no features, but radiated an aura of pure misery and intense anger. The phantom vanished when he blinked. His wife experienced an even more terrifying encounter a few days later. While lying in bed, she felt a cold breath on the back of her neck. She turned around to see a massive dark silhouette looming over her side of the mattress. The shadowy figure stood completely still and watched her in silence. The frightened woman screamed and turned on the bedside lamp immediately. The room was totally empty, but the lingering scent of damp earth and old metallic blood filled the air. They knew the presence was directly tied to the inherited artwork. The cursed canvas was acting as an open doorway for the dead. Desperate to understand the situation, Sean set up a video camera in the spare bedroom. He pointed the lens directly at the terrifying portrait and hit the record button. He left the room and closed the door tightly behind him. He hoped to capture undeniable proof of the paranormal activity terrorizing his terrified family. The footage he reviewed the next morning was absolutely chilling to witness. The video showed the heavy wooden door swinging shut on its own. A loud, mysterious bang echoed through the empty room, causing the camera microphone to peak. Then the frame captured a sudden violent shaking of the camera tripod without any wind. In one piece of recording, a dark shape seemed to dart across the screen. It moved far too quickly to be a simple shadow cast by passing cars outside. The video evidence confirmed what the family already knew in their hearts. The spirit attached to the cursed canvas was fully active and incredibly dangerous. Sean uploaded the eerie footage to the internet seeking advice from paranormal investigators. The videos quickly went viral and attracted millions of curious viewers around the world. Skeptics tried to debunk the recordings, while believers warned him to destroy the terrible painting immediately. The family was caught in a terrifying global media storm. Several experienced occult researchers reached out to Sean regarding his famous haunted object. They warned him that destroying the painting could actually release the trapped entity into his home permanently. Burning the canvas might destroy the physical vessel, but leave the angry spirit behind. He was advised to treat the dreadful artwork with caution. The emotional toll on the Robinson family grew increasingly difficult to bear. The constant lack of sleep and the pervasive feeling of being watched wore down their nerves. Arguments broke out over minor issues as the negative energy in the house amplified their frustrations. The painting was poisoning their minds and their happy home. One evening, Sean experienced the most terrifying event of his entire life. He was walking up the stairs when he felt a sudden violent shove against his back. He stumbled forward and barely caught the wooden banister before falling. He turned around to find the staircase completely empty, but the air was freezing cold. The physical attack changed everything for the desperate father and husband. The entity was no longer just making noise and casting dark shadows. It was now capable of inflicting bodily harm upon the living inhabitants of the house. The restless spirit of the unnamed artist wanted them to suffer his identical historical pain. Sean realized his grandmother had been completely right about the dangerous artifact. Her warnings were not the rambling stories of a superstitious old woman. They were a desperate attempt to protect her descendants from a genuine evil presence. The cursed object needed to be contained before someone in his family was seriously injured forever. He took the painting down from the spare bedroom wall with trembling hands. The painted face seemed to mock him with its wide, hollow eyes and screaming mouth. He felt an intense wave of nausea wash over him as he touched the wooden frame. The dark crimson pigments seemed to glow in the dim light. Sean wrapped the canvas in several thick layers of heavy protective blankets. He secured the bundle with thick ropes, ensuring no part of the cursed image was visible. He then carried the heavy package down to the deepest part of his basement. He placed it inside a locked wooden chest, hidden away from sight. The moment the trunk was sealed, the heavy atmosphere in the house lifted. The freezing cold spots vanished, and the family dog finally stopped growling at empty corners. The terrible sounds of midnight weeping ceased completely. Peace slowly returned to the Robinson home as the supernatural activity faded into a distant, terrifying memory. But the story of the terrible artwork did not end in that dark basement. Word of the cursed canvas continued to spread across the globe. Paranormal television shows begged Sean to let them feature the dreadful item in their investigations. Museum curators offered large sums of money to purchase the infamous haunted possession. Sean refused every offer to sell the dangerous artifact to curious buyers. He believed that passing the painting to another person would be completely irresponsible. He knew the suffering it caused and refused to inflict that terror on an innocent stranger. The heavy responsibility of guarding the cursed object fell entirely upon his shoulders. Despite his best efforts to keep the canvas hidden, the entity remains restless. Sean occasionally reports hearing faint scratching noises coming from the locked basement chest. Sometimes a familiar heavy dread creeps up the wooden stairs during the darkest nights. The trapped artist is still awake and waiting for another chance to escape. The legend of the bloody masterpiece raises terrifying questions about the nature of art. Can a creator truly bind their soul to their work through sheer emotional force? Does mixing physical essence with oil paint create a permanent bridge between the living and the dead? The screaming face offers no comforting answers to anyone. Many experts believe the deep crimson stains hold the key to the haunting. The presence of human biological material may act as an anchor for the ghostly entity. It prevents the tormented soul from moving on to the afterlife. The canvas is literally built from the physical and emotional agony of its miserable creator. Some brave investigators have attempted to uncover the true identity of the mysterious painter. They searched through old local records in northern England, looking for tragic artists, but the creator remains a total ghost in the historical archives. His name has been erased by time, leaving only his final monument to endless suffering. Without a name or a history, the spirit cannot be properly put to rest. There is no grave to bless, and no final words to offer the grieving soul. The entity exists only as a manifestation of pure, unadulterated anguish. It is forever trapped in the terrible moment before the artist took his life. The painting serves as a grim warning to those who obsess over dark artifacts. Seeking out haunted objects for cheap thrills often leads to genuine horror and regret. There are certain forces in this world that should never be disturbed by the living. Some doors once opened are nearly impossible to close again permanently. Today, the terrifying canvas remains safely locked away from the vulnerable public eye. Sean occasionally checks the chest to ensure the heavy locks are still completely secure. He knows he must remain vigilant against the dark entity resting below his home. The screaming face is always waiting in the absolute pitch black darkness. The family has learned to live alongside the dormant but dangerous supernatural presence. They ignore the occasional faint sounds that drift up from the concrete basement floor. They focus on their daily lives and refuse to give the spirit any more energy. Fear is the fuel that empowers the dark, shadowy figure to manifest. As the years pass, the legend of the artwork only continues to grow stronger. It has become one of the most famous documented haunted objects in the entire world. Stories of the crying, ghostly artist echo through countless online forums and late-night discussions. The unseen artwork casts a massive, terrifying shadow over society. We must consider what will happen when Sean is no longer around to guard it. Will the cursed painting be passed down to another unprepared generation of his family? Or will it eventually find its way into the hands of a reckless collector? The future of the terrible screaming canvas remains dark and completely uncertain. For now, the anguished spirit must suffer in total silence and absolute isolation. The twisted, melting face screams into the void of the locked wooden chest. The deep crimson blood, mixed into the old oil paint, slowly continues to age. But the immense supernatural power radiating from the canvas has not diminished at all. Those who have seen the painting in person swear they can never forget it. The hollow, staring eyes burn themselves into the deepest parts of human memory forever. The profound sense of sadness lingers in the mind long after the canvas is hidden. It is a contagion of grief passed through a simple glance. It is said that true art is meant to disturb the comfortable and comfort the disturbed. This particular piece fails to offer any comfort to anyone who gazes upon it. It exists solely to share the bottomless despair of a completely broken human being. The artist succeeded in making his endless pain totally immortal. Perhaps one day, the trapped spirit will finally find the peace it desperately seeks. Perhaps the ancient dark pigments will fade into dust and release the angry entity. Until that distant day arrives, the cursed object must remain buried in the shadows. The living must be protected from the terrible wrath of the dead. The story of this haunted masterpiece is a chilling reminder of our fragile mortality. It shows how our darkest emotions can outlive our physical bodies by many decades. The energy we put into the world can remain long after we are entirely gone. Sometimes that lingering energy becomes a terrifying monster in the night. If you ever find yourself wandering through a dusty attic or ancient antique shop, beware. Be careful when admiring forgotten portraits. With intense, staring eyes and muted dark colors, you never know what kind of sorrowful spirit might be trapped behind the painted canvas. Not all art is meant to be rescued from the darkness. Some items are hidden away for a very good and terrifying logical reason. They are locked in heavy chests to protect innocent souls from ancient malicious curses. The screaming face of the nameless artist stands as a testament to profound horror. It is a masterpiece of misery that should never see the light again. The dark, shadowy figure still paces the invisible spiritual floors of its wooden prison. It continues to weep heavy tears of blood in the lonely silence of the basement. The tragic unknown creator has become entirely one with his final terrifying magnum opus. The boundaries between the artist and the art have completely dissolved. So remember the chilling tale of the canvas, painted with actual human life force. Respect the unknown boundaries that separate our mortal realm from the mysterious beyond. Let the tragic, screaming soul rest in the cold, dark isolation it currently inhabits. The cursed artwork known as the Anguished Man is watching and waiting always.